All right, let's bring in Brian Billick, the NFL on Fox. And let me start with the Bengals game last night, because it seemed like everybody was back on that bandwagon. All of a sudden, the Bengals lose in overtime. What did that loss say to you about this Bengal team, Brian?
Well, I think it says something about the entire league. I mean, the Bengals are a good football team. There's no question about it. But what I'm looking for, not that it really matters at this point, but to handicap who really are the teams that are going to be the teams to beat in the playoffs and even into the conference championships and the Super Bowl. Who can go on the road and really play well? I mean, can Seattle go into San Francisco and win? Can San Francisco go into New Orleans and win? Can New Orleans go into Green Bay? Can Green Bay go into Seattle? Can Cincinnati go into a good place? Not that Miami qualifies that. Can Denver go into KC? Can KC go into Denver? I think that's the different, the difference that I'm looking for to really put a mark on a team that says, okay, this one's championship caliber.
Ryan Tannehill, we don't mention him with the other young quarterbacks. Are we missing something there? Should he be mentioned with them?
Well, stand by. His numbers at the end of the year right now will be rookie-esque, meaning he'll have maybe a couple more touchdowns, interceptions, under 60%. But at the very least, it doesn't look like the game is too big for him, and that's a positive. Now, they added a lot of weapons, obviously, in the offseason, expected to be better. But, that growth period for him, you have to remember how little he played in college. So, yeah, I think he could become a guy, but we're a little ways from finding out yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know how good he is, but here's a guy who was a wide receiver in college, quarterback, size-wise, threw for 4,000 yards. I just don't know if it's because he's not dynamic, we don't focus on him like we do some of these other young quarterbacks.
Yeah, and obviously not having the huge rookie year, when you talk about Andrew Luck and Russell Wilson and RG3. So they had kind of a jump start on it. And his is more along the rookie lines of, okay, passable the first year. Let's see if there's improvement in the second year and see if he kind of explodes onto the scene the third year. And like a lot of athletic quarterbacks, you're right. He has the pedigree in being a wide receiver in college. I think the question still needs to be answered. Is he a passer that's athletic, or is he an athlete that can pass? And there's a big, big difference. But he's beginning to show those signs of maturing as an NFL quarterback.
He's Brian Billick, NFL on Fox analyst, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. Knowing what you know now with Dez Bryant, and you're calling something in the moment during that game on Fox, that you had comments that were critical of Dez Bryant's behavior. We've heard some of the conversation on the sideline. Do you change your opinion of what you saw with Dez Bryant?
No, not really, because it really didn't matter what he said. It was the fact that he was kind of going off in the way he did and going after his quarterback, the head coach standing right there, Jason Witten trying to get him to calm down, DeMarcus Ware trying to get him to calm down, actually physically grabbing him, and that he wouldn't calm down. He wouldn't recognize that he was part of the problem now, not part of the solution. So it really didn't matter what he said. He just has to get it under control. He's an incredible athlete, but that kind of distraction, here we are, Friday, and we're still talking about it. And for a team like the Cowboys that are always on the edge, always trying to just get over that hump, regardless of what you say, it is a distraction.
But as a coach, do you respect the passion that he has on the sideline?
Yeah, but we all have to be very, very careful about enabling players and dismissing it strictly as passion. At the end of the day, it can't be disruptive. All players have passion. And, yeah, you appreciate the passion. What concerns me is as the head coach, you already brought it up, as the head coach and the players eventually have to deal with this. When the owner after the game says, I have no problem with what he's doing, how does Dez Bryant then, when he's approached by his teammates, when he's approached by his coach behind closed doors, and look, we can't act that way, how does he not sit there and think, well, look, the owner's okay with it, so, hey, forget it.
Well, they've enabled him. There's no doubt about it. And it's hard to kind of put the genie back in the bottle there. So I think everybody's saying all the right things. And that's why you get some of these people who've been banging away at us, or a columnist or talking heads, that what we said about Dez Bryant, Romo said came to his defense, and Jerry Jones and Jason Witten. And then you just want to say, what did you expect them to say? Of course they're going to side with their teammate. It would make the matter even worse if they said, we're very disappointed in him. Nobody said that in the Cowboys camp.
They did the same thing with T.O., and then come to find out, no, it was disruptive. Now, it's hard to win in the National Football League, and every minute of every day as you prepare for that has to be focused on what am I going to do to beat the opponent coming up. Now, human beings, all things going on, there's always going to be distractions. But this is a self-contrived distraction, and make no mistake, it is a distraction just all week long. You know that Jason Garrett, Tony Romo, Jerry Jones, they're all having to answer questions about it, whether they want to or not, whether they say it's behind them. They really don't have a vote in this anymore because we're going to keep talking about it, particularly when it exhibits itself in an unbelievable loss, as unbelievable game as it was, and it was a factor. It adds to the overall panic. He's going to have to learn to mature as a professional and not be that kind of guy if he expects to go forward. Yeah, his teammates will always cover. They covered T.O., they covered Chad Ochocinco. But after the fact, we come to find out, he just wore his team out.
This whole taunting rule, or the possibility of a taunting rule penalty in the NFL, I know in college we'll take away a touchdown if you taunt en route to a touchdown. Are you on the road with taking away a touchdown or just penalizing player and or team?
Yeah, I think we have to be very careful about going that step too far, because then how do you reel it back in? And to have a game affected in that way, certainly if you want to penalize the player, if you want to throw the player out, you're affecting the game. But to specifically take a score away, I think we may be crossing the line, or as you said, letting the genie out of the bottle that we can't put back in.
Yeah, I don't want it, but I can see penalizing the team, make them punt from the 10-yard line. That there is a decided advantage that you're going to give the opposition because you're acting like a jerk. And if you want to find these guys who taunt, I guess. But I don't know how many times we've seen it where you say that would be a taunting penalty there, but Golden Tate certainly deserved a taunting penalty.
And the conversation we just had, didn't you just love what Pete Carroll did? I mean, the guy, they just had a big touchdown in a game that was decided by a touchdown. Mm-hmm. And what's the first thing Pete Carroll did? Before that kid got to the sideline, he was in his face saying, "We don't do that. Okay, we're not going to be that kind of team. We're not going to provide that kind of distraction because we're not going to win that way." Contrast that to compared to what happened in Dallas.
Before I let you go, as an analyst, obviously you have forgotten more football than I know, but when you're trying to translate for us, the audience, the jargon that's there, I think sometimes analysts get so caught up in speaking to other analysts that they have to realize they're talking to non-football people, or at least, we consume it, but we never played or coached. How much of your job is to say, I see it, I understand it, I know the terminology, now I have to let you know as an audience?
Yeah, I agree with you. Sometimes it's kind of like the badge of honor. I'll throw out as many terms as I can to show people that I know what I'm doing and that I'm an expert, to kind of validate that. And you're right. The mentoring I've gotten along the years, there's constantly somebody in my ear. I've had a great group to work with me, that when I start to get a little jargony, something as simple as, D&D for down and distance, if I were to use that term, well, in this D&D, there's somebody in my ear going, "Hey, say down and distance," trying to remind them, look, there's some people out there that you might want to explain that to. But by the same token, you don't want to talk down to people, because I think there are some people that they may not know what it is, but they sure want to use the jargon too. So I think you throw a little out there and maybe educate them just a little bit.
Okay, give me a for instance of something where you could really go deep and talk over my head.
Wow, that's a tough one. The one that always gets me sometimes is when we're talking about, well, you know what? They really need to scoop the 3 technique to jump to that second level to cut off the backside. Okay, and I'll be honest, I've been in this business, man and boy for 35 years. Sometimes I ask me, now where's that 3 technique? Does that mean he's head up on the inside eye of the guard? Where is that alignment? Sometimes you get caught up in that jargon, but I think sometimes also I think in today's NFL, in today's avalanche of media and accessibility on the computer, and everybody gets the game film now, the actual game film, I think they maybe know a little bit more football than we give them credit for.
Have fun this weekend, Brian. Thanks for joining us.
We'll do it. Sounds good.
All right, it's Brian Billick.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.